Welcome to the Leading at the Next Level podcast with Dove Development and Consulting, the show built to provide ongoing support for your leadership journey. So you notice right away that I'm doing something a little bit different in this episode that I don't usually do. I think once maybe in the history of the Leading at the Next Level podcast, I've been on air or live by myself and just walked through some things in several cases. Cindy and I have worked through some different things, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But most of the time, we get to do interviews with business leaders, with clients, with friends, folks that we have professional relationships with, where we talk about their purpose or the values of their organization or some of the different things that we're working with them on and why they're so passionate about what they do, but how it really helps them make a positive leadership impact on the people around them. Today, what I want to do is really walk you through something that we've got coming up that we're super excited about. Now, over the last several episodes, and you'll see these in the show notes and some of the breakdown, but in the last several episodes, the only one that I've done on my own was one where I really unlocked what we're doing on October 17th, 2025, here in the Shenandoah Valley, called our 2025 Executive Summit. It's an event that Cindy and I are going to be hosting. It's going to be about 125 mid-level managers up to business owners, where we really try to facilitate stronger leadership relationships around very, very specific content. And I mapped that out in one episode. And then Cindy and I worked through 3 episodes where we really walked through the specific topics we'll be covering, where the layout of the event, what we're going to be doing is a lesson, and then we're going to do really tailored table discussion where the leaders at each table can interact. And that first lesson is going to be based on laying a foundation with values and the simple practices involved with each. Then we're going to have those table discussions where the 5 folks at each table are going to really interact around 5 very strategic and intentional questions that are based on the experiences they have had across different segments of our economy, so they can learn from one another. Then we're going to break and come back in the room and have folks at different tables. And Cindy and I are going to share a second lesson called Building a Culture Around Values. And we're going to talk about how important it is that we all provide a very, very consistent example on what our values look like in the workplace every day. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to have those very specific tailored questions, and the group interact with the new group that they're with. And then we're going to have lunch, and they'll come back in at a different table with their third group for the day. And we're going to share that third lesson called Creating a Legacy Through Values, and talk about how setting sustainable expectations for what our values look like and how our teams exemplify them really matter for creating that legacy we want through the organization. Now, here's the kicker. All 3 of those lessons tie back to the next book I've got coming out called The Values Advantage. It's set for release in early 2026, February 20th to be specific. That's National Leadership Day. Just so happens to be John Maxwell's birthday as well, but it's National Leadership Day. In that book, it was a fun project to work on every single day. The last 2 books, I remember the ups and the downs through those, but it gave me a framework, if you will, or a format to work from as I did that. So what I did in the Values Advantage is I started it off. Now, before I even get to the start off, I got to tell you some things that I'm really excited about. We're working right now to confirm the forward and who will write that. I'm not 100% sure, but it's looking like a gentleman that leads and owns a global organization. He spends time in about 35 different countries each year. He works with heads of state and some of the largest leaders of the largest organizations worldwide on a routine basis. And I'm not giving it away yet. You might be able to guess if you know us and some of the interaction that we've got, but I'm working to confirm that. And there's a very specific reason that I'm hoping that he gets to share from his perspective that forward for the Values Advantage. The introduction is a wonderful friend of mine. We met just over 4 years ago as I share this, and he's going to provide the introduction for the book and talk about, because I reference him and his wife, and I'm not going to say names here, and that's very intentional because I want you to be tuned in and I want you to dig deeper as we get to do interviews with those folks, and we get to tell more about the stories and who they are and why we've been so blessed to be able to work with them. But the introduction is going to be based on his experience from a large insurance and financial services company that did close to $1 billion in revenue, and now his experience over the last several years in small business and leading teams in a completely different sector, and how the same 5 core values have been really the foundation for everything he's done. Now, with that smaller business that they bought as a family, they've more than doubled in those 4 years, more than doubled the revenue. I think it's almost tripled the revenue. And it's really been every decision has tied back to those 5 core values that he talked to me about in July of 2021 when I first met him on Zoom, multiple states away. It was so fun. The prologue, gosh, I'm excited about the prologue of this book because it is one of the foremost experts on the planet in branding. And she is actively working on a book right now too on branding, but there's a segment that talks about values. So it's just a great fit. We've got great interaction with her already, and we're super excited that she can write a prologue that really helps tie together the ideas behind the values advantage. Now, once you get into the values advantage itself, there's a couple different parts. One of those parts, really the first 6 chapters, is built to make a case for values-driven leadership and how important it is in every segment of every industry. The next part is more of the practical application for building a values-based culture. And that has a lot of ties to what we're going to be doing locally in the Shenandoah Valley for the 125 or so mid-level managers up to executives and owners on October 17th. And again, all of this, you'll see links to all this in the show notes. And there's also in the book a framework to make a lasting impact, because one of the things that Cindy and I've seen over the years is if there's a lot of pie in the sky stuff out there, but no practical framework for how you can take action in your everyday role and routine, we're dropping the ball on you. So I was very, very intentional. I did the same thing with the purpose book. Cindy's working on some stuff in another aspect that she's working on, but I was very intentional about detailing a specific framework for creating a lasting impact through those values. Now, we didn't stop there. One of the things that I'm super excited about, and the purpose of sharing this with you right now, is the real world examples. It's going to be a chapter, kind of an appendix to the book. We're actively working right now with close to a dozen folks on specific parts of their values. Now, the things that they're going to be doing for us is from their perspective, the folks that we've seen embody and really use values in every aspect of their organizations, personally and professionally. We've said, hey, will you help us? And many of them are going to be providing a 500 to 600 word segment for the book that's going to serve as that chapter, but it's going to be something else that we're doing with it soon too. And I'll share that with you in just a little bit. The first part that they're going to be looking for, probably 4 of them, are going to be talking about how they work to identify the core values for their organization, what went into saying, hey, this is the value that means the most to us. How do we identify it? How did we define it? How do we know exactly what, let's say, integrity, that can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. How do we define, here's what integrity means to us and why it's one that we want to pick for our value? The next set, 4 more, are going to be sharing from a perspective of how do they work to embody once they're defined, once they've got the values in place, once they know what they want those values to mean, how do they embody those values for their organizations on a daily basis? How do their team members understand what those values look like in practice every single day? Because if the team members don't understand it, if they don't have a living, breathing, walking everyday example, if it's just talk, if it's just writing in a policy manual or on a wall, does it really matter? How are they embodying those core values in their organizations, in their everyday life? And the third group, probably 3 of those, is what we're looking at now. And that third group, we're going to be looking at how they've built their core values into serving their clients and the communities they do business in. And it's going to be really intentional about how they do that. Now, one of the things that we realized is, hey, if we're doing this just in a specific sector, we're going to leave a lot of low-hanging fruit out there. We're not going to give you enough juice for the squeeze, so to speak. So what we've been able to do, we've got clients in all industries. Cindy and I have been blessed, and I mean blessed, with relationships with some of the most effective and influential people that we've ever been able to come in contact with in all different industries. One is going to come from an engineering perspective, and he's one of the most amazing people that we've ever known. Another is going to speak to real estate property management, and they've got a great track record for not only the success of the organization, but how they exemplify the values to for their teams. One is in a commercial construction space, and we're excited about that interaction. And we've watched them live it out. We've watched them convey that message to the team. And they're actively in the process of building out more detail around those core values as we speak. Another is a leader in global manufacturing. We've known him for a number of years. He travels all around the world. He does all these amazing things, and it's been just a wonderful relationship we've been able to build. Couldn't be happier that he is willing to, from that perspective of global manufacturing, share about embodying those core values. Another is electrical contracting, separate from commercial construction, but this one's more in the power gen space and some different stuff. And again, for the decade that we've been close friends and had a lot of interaction professionally, I've watched those core values be the foundation of every decision he's made in and with his organization. One is coming from the banking and financial industry perspective and how much those core values of his organization matter in serving his customers, his clients, the community that they're a part of on a daily basis. Another is in the healthcare segment. And gosh, in many cases, Cindy and I refer to healthcare now as medical care because it's two wildly different things. And I won't get on that soapbox rant today about it, but I'll say what we heard from the very first interaction with this person was how important values are in every aspect of what they do. And the cool part is we've seen it in action in their organization. Another has a fantastic record in different aspects of public safety, both internationally and locally. And it's really, really cool to see how those values have really been that foundation for the work that they've done, for the team that they've built, for the people that they've impacted around them. We've got some folks that have retail ties, and we've even got some nonprofit ties that we're working through. And if we can work and connect the dots on the one we're hoping to do, it's one that has reach in countries around the world as well. There's more that we're working to put together. We're so excited about the different pieces. Now, some of what I want to share with you is how the values advantage is more or less a foundation for what we're doing in October of 2025 for the Executive Summit. But that book's going to be coming out soon. We've got a lot of different pieces coming with that. And I'm just so excited. For the last couple of years, I've worked with industry leaders, clients, friends in most cases that we're doing this to get feedback, to kind of pre-read, to get an advanced reader copy of the different books, what's killing your profitability or leading with clear purpose. Say, hey, could you provide me something of a testimonial that I can use in the front of the book? Now, obviously, what I just mapped out with those real world examples is wildly different, but it's not just to say, hey, look who's involved. It's more from a perspective of how can we build in more value, more perspective outside of just mine, right? I share a lot of examples through the book, but I want you to be able to, when you access that book, I want you to be able to hear how the values, the framework that I've put throughout the book, how it has really impacted so many different businesses and different industries, and not just businesses. I'll say organizations rather than businesses, because sometimes a nonprofit's not viewed as that. Sometimes public safety or government entities aren't viewed as businesses. How values really matter in every single one. It ties the ties of the Executive Summit really built back to what we're looking to do with that release of the book in February. I want to make sure that we're promoting great organizations, because the reality is when they've built those businesses on values, when they've laid that foundation, when they've really taken advantage of the values that they've got out there, they've built them into every aspect of their culture. Those are strong businesses. And we've seen every single one that we've been working with that I referenced throughout the book, and almost all of them that are writing real world example segments for the appendix, that final chapter of the book. We've seen those values really add to how they recruit and retain the top talent, and not just the top talent, some of the best people with the best matching values in their respective industries. We want to be able to shine a light through that process on their organizations because it matters that much. And I think that just helps get the best people in the right seats in each of their organizations. Now, here's the rest of that. In June of 2026, Cindy and I are excited to host our second annual Leadership Legacy Experience. That will be in Harrisonburg. And it doesn't matter where it's at, because the reality is we had folks from 6 or 7 different states with us at the first one in 2025. We've got so much capacity to grow because of the venue we've got booked, the Atlantic Union Bank Center at James Madison University. It's a lot of cool stuff. So where you might be hearing this from several states away, Cindy and I are just outside of Harrisonburg, Virginia, you might be hearing this and say, hey, that 125 person thing in October of 2025, Wes, that's not for me. And that's okay. It may not be for you. It's really for the business leaders in the Shenandoah Valley or throughout Virginia that we work pretty closely with on a routine basis. The 2026 Leadership Legacy Experience is absolutely for you. It's for anybody that can get there. And what I've seen, we'll have a killer trade show. We had a fantastic trade show last year, but we've got so many things in store to make it more effective coming into 2026, because it was a new venue for us in 2025. We've built from that. We know how to make things work in the venue. It's a lot of different things that we're working through right now. In June of 2026, we fully expect between 600 and 800 folks that are in the building and that participate with us from all over the East Coast. It will indeed be a regional event, but we want to make sure again that the folks that are contributing to these real world examples in the book have great visibility. And the way they tie in is they're going to be serving as executive panelists. We're going to have some on-stage interviews. We're going to have some trade show booth interviews that are over lunch, where we pipe the sound through the entire concourse and the Coliseum and all these different things. So those organizations can be front and center and say, here's how we've used the values advantage to get a leg up on our competition. Here's how it's helped us be successful, not just in profitability, that matters, but in how we impact the lives of our team members and the communities that we're a part of. And we've seen a lot of folks, Cindy and I've seen a lot of organizations over the years, statistically, it's about 80% say, here's our values. They've got them listed. And when you see the book, you'll see that statistic is based in some different articles and so on. But statistically, about 80 organizations say, we have these core values defined. But I can tell you, I've seen very, very few of them walk the talk on a routine basis. I've seen a whole lot more who have not walked the talk. I've seen a lot say, this is what we say and we believe, but I'm not seeing them back it with action. In many cases, I've seen them even drop the ball and go against those values. And some of those examples are in the book too. I just don't call them out by name. You'll see them when you interact with them, and you can probably think of plenty of your own examples. But the reality is, at that 2026 Leadership Legacy Experience, you will get to meet and interact with and hear from the folks that contribute to the book, but also you'll get to see them as executive panelists. We'll be doing some interviews leading up to it. So all of those things tie together, and we can really build on that framework for creating the lasting impact in your organization through the values advantage. I hope this serves you well. My goodness, I'd love to hear feedback from you. I'd love to be able to interact with you a little bit more on it. In the show notes, I've got some links to laying a foundation with values, the simple practices, the episode Cindy and I did a while back, the one that I did that really mapped out unlocking the 2025 Executive Summit, the one about building a culture through values that Cindy and I did together, the one about creating a legacy through values that Cindy and I did together. And you can always check out the Values Advantage or even the 2026 Leadership Legacy Experience and the 2025 Executive Summit. All those are in there. Now, the last thing I'll do, I'm going to challenge you. If you need continuing education credits, here's a give that I always like to wrap up with. Cindy and I have invested thousands and thousands of dollars and thousands of hours into creating a product that, as approved providers for recertification credit with the Society for Human Resource Management, SHRM, and the Human Resource Certification Institute, HRCI, we have a digital product where we do live lessons typically twice a month. And we have a digital library of over 160 lessons alongside of those that are all approved for credit for both of those entities. If you need those continuing education credits or continuing education credits for different credential, maybe reach out to us directly about that and we'll see how we'll help. But if you need that, send me an email at admin@dove-development.net, and we'd be happy to hook you up with a 45-day all-access trial to our complete Leading at the Next Level program, so you could kick the tires and take advantage of some of those credits and gosh, dig into it and see how you can use it. The live lessons, when we do those, we wrap it up, we close the recording, and then we do Q&A with anybody that's able to get on live. And that's really geared at how can we help them identify the specific action steps they can take immediately to get measurable measurable return on investment and build their leadership culture. Now, here's the deal. Our goal, our sole purpose for existence in what we do in our organization is to help you improve your profitability by building better leaders. Hope this serves you well. Make it a great day. God bless.